Welcome, everybody, to Down and Dirty with the Badger State Tractor Pullers. I'm going to talk at the beginning because I have a feeling once this gets rolling with these three guys, Elsine, we're not going to have a chance to talk the rest of the night. So
that's true.
This is the announcer show, and I want to thank John and Stacy for having to announce in Freeport, Illinois, back in 2007 or 8. That gave me my first chance to announce with the Badger State Tractor Pullers. And Bill Smith said if I sucked, I'd never announce a Badger State Puller the rest of my life. And if I did good, I'd be back. And he obviously approved of me because I was able to come back. And Christopher Clark, that's really when you got involved because we needed more help. And you were kind of waiting in the wings, and you were very, very instrumental in helping with Beer Money Pulling Team in those earlier years back when you were going to UW-Platteville. So I have three people on the screen and Greg, I have a lot of admiration for. And it is banquet week for the Badger State Tractor Pullers. So please, let's have a lot of fun tonight. Let's type in the comments, a lot of questions. I'm going to mute myself and let the guys take over. John Strandley, this is your show. Run with it, kiddo.
Awesome. I'm glad to have all my compadres here tonight. This is going to be a lot of fun. We have a lot of fun in the summer, and there's not that many times that we do get together and announce together. But when we do, boy, we have a good time, don't we?
Yeah. Yeah, that's one of the fun parts of it all. When we get together, like you say, it's not that often that we do.
Christopher, what's one of the most memorable announcing nights this summer that you had with Badger State?
Yeah, I'll start it off, and then maybe we can go around the horn too and just kind of introduce ourselves for some of them that don't maybe know who we are, and maybe say what your memorable moment was from this last year, and then maybe something that somebody that you think that the crowd may not know about your announcing career, maybe a little tidbit there. And my favorite one, again, kind of goes back at Darlington. It's always an exciting pull to be at. But I think what topped that one this year was at Highland, the Highland Nationals, as that pull continues to grow and be successful and bring more and more pullers there. And Stacy got to be there this year with me. We had to bring in some extra help as that event keeps growing and getting bigger, and gives me more of a chance to get out in the crowd and do a few other things. So that was definitely a highlight there. That is really quite a professional, awesome event that they put on there. And my name's Christopher Clark, like John said, from Spring Green, Wisconsin. And interesting fact that you guys, this might make you two feel a little bit older, might make Greg feel quite older, but I'll be going into my 10th season in 2024 announcing for the Badger State Tractor Pullers. I first got to see my name on the staff schedule back in 2015, and have some Facebook pictures, I think from 2014 when I interviewed Greg Elsing at a pull in Southwest Wisconsin that the Badger State doesn't even have anymore. It was so long ago, but it's kind of awesome to see, quite a blessing, and really great to be a part of the team going into my 10th season this upcoming season. So really looking forward to that. And 10 years before that, I grew up watching you two and listening to you two on the stage. So always got to give a shout out to you guys, and glad to be part of the team here tonight.
Well, we're glad to have you.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, Christopher. You did a fine job making us feel old, at least me anyway.
Right.
Hey, Stacy.
I'm the senior guy on the circuit. I mean, both in age and tenure, I guess, on the Badger State circuit. I started announcing Tri-County Mini Rods 40 years ago, if you can believe that. That's when I got my start. And I think I announced my first Badger State pull back in 92, I believe it was. Then it took off from there. So I've been at this for over 30 years. So it's been a while for me too. That's for sure. Yeah, good or bad or otherwise, man, I've been at it a long time. But you look back on the year, we do so many events, and Christopher allured to Highland. That was my first chance being up there, and that was a lot of fun. Got to announce with Christopher there, and that event itself is another one that's really coming right along. That's for sure. something that stood out to me this year is it was at the Macville Nationals, and then me and Christopher were there announcing also, and Christopher's kind of calling the show up on the Crow's Nest there, and I was doing a lot of drivers circle interviews for the PPL for their live stream. And so anyway, but I had a cordless mic and I was running around, and that was the night that Jeff Hurt blew up. And I ran right out there, and everybody knows Jeff Hurt knows you can get a word out of him anyway. And I says, Jeff, what happened? And he goes, it blew up, or no, it went bang, or it went boom. That's what it was. He goes, it went boom. And that was the best interview I've ever had in my life. And I think it was only like 7 or 8 words. And that was a lot of fun. But, you know, when we talk about announcing tractor pulls, you know, our job is to tell the fans, you know, what's going on and everything. And, you know, I think we do a good job of delivering what's going on out on the track, who's in the lead and whatnot and all that stuff. And make it entertaining for them also. I think all 3 of us have been around it enough and grew. Actually, I think we all grew up around it. So we know what we're seeing and what we like to see. And that was just one of my many highlights of the year. Another highlight was just announcing 4 pulls in 4 days. That got to be a pretty good run. And I think the finish of that was the Saturday night in Highland, Christopher.
Yeah.
That made 4 and 4. And I think John, I was with you at the start of that at Beaver Dam or something. I don't know, but it was a pretty whirlwind adventure, that's for sure. But how about you, John? What do you remember from this summer?
I think Beaver Dam was probably one of the fun nights, and you rode up with us, and you, me, and Ross went up there in 2 tracks, and that crowd up there is just spectacular. That was a fun night, for sure.
Yeah, that was a fun night. I tell you, going back in the old memory banks, and this wasn't a Badger State pull per se, but for me, one of the things my biggest experiences announcing a tractor pull was down at Gordyville at Tucker's pull, and pro stocks were running, and I can't remember what night it was. It really doesn't matter. But Robert Martin's team come down through. I'm not sure which one of the Martins was driving, and they destroyed that pro stock. You know, split the block, and that was before that tractor wasn't component yet, so it just destroyed that tractor. And it was right in front of the announcer stand, right at the end of the track. And boy, what a mess that made! And you guys all been to Gordyville. The fans are pretty close to the action down there, and you know, nobody got hit with anything or anything. It took a while to get it cleaned up, but that was probably one of the things that I remember most of my announcing career. As far as I always say, when you're the announcer, you get a good seat, and you get to watch a good tractor pull. And boy, I had a good seat for that one that night.
Yeah, that's true. I'll chime in with kind of one of my biggest highlights too, and I don't have to go maybe back quite as many years as Stacy does, and I don't have as many years to go back either. But I just this last year, I was going to mention one of my other highlights too, is I got to do the Calcutta auction at the American Family Children's Hospital benefit pull in Baraboo this year, and I think if I remember right, it was really close to around $55,000 that auction brought in. I'm pretty sure Greg might know more on the number, but it was over 50, and it was that was a real special night. That's one thing I'll remember as Jason throws up that video there that you were just talking about, Stacy. This is always a pretty good one to see.
Josh
this is Martin's out of Pennsylvania at Gordyville. It's right at the end of the run. This thing just comes completely unglued. And it can't see it in that picture yet, but the announcer stand's just right off to the left at the end of the track. And that was something else. That was amazing. The thing that I remember, one of the things I remember about that after that thing exploded like that, was some of the other pullers, notably builders, coming out and taking a look at things. You know, since the engine was all opened up, you know, they could get in there and take a look at some of the stuff that was in there. And I found that to be quite amusing too.
A lot of pulls we go to, it's just fun, and there's so many Badger State pulls. We need all 3 of us. Could probably use a 4th once in a while, that things get so crazy. But it's so much fun, and the fans, I think, is what keeps us all going. You know, so much they get involved with it, and the fans that are on here tonight. Thanks for jumping on here. There's quite a few people on here. Ryan Morey's watching, Stacy. He's watching from Arizona tonight, I do believe, and a bunch of others that are commenting. So, yeah, hello from Arizona, boys. Miss working with you guys. Ryan used to do some announcing too, and announced with us a little bit here and there. Announced for Northern Illinois Club. We had a lot of fun pulling with him and announcing. So we miss him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Guys,
It seems like
I'm gonna play the video.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Stace. No, I want to play the video with sound, and you can hear Stacy telling people to stay back if I remember correctly. So.
Everybody stay back. Shut the gate. Everybody stay back. Is anybody hurt this side of the track? Other side of the track. Is anybody hurt? Everybody okay down here? Oh, shit! Everybody okay? Everybody okay?
Yeah, that was my first experience trying to do crowd control, because you've been to Gordyville, you know, they got them cattle gates, them cattle gates there. And there was a gate that opened to the track right to the right of the announcer stand. And they had that gate open, and that track was going to get flooded because, there's a lot of, I shouldn't say a lot, there's all pullers pretty much at Gordyville, and everybody wanted to get a closer look. And I had them shut that gate, otherwise that track was going to be flooded. But then my next question was right away, was anybody hurt? I remember that distinctively, just asking, anybody hurt? Anybody hurt? I asked it over and over again. And I'm looking and I'm panning the crowd, and everybody's kind of like, no, we're all good. We're having a good time. They drink another beer, and they cleaned up the mess, and away we went. We kept on pulling until 2 a.m.
That's Greg, what's your too quiet in the corner?
What's that?
What's your thoughts? You're too quiet in the corner.
I am. That was an old video I was watching because I still had a 4-inch pipe on a Pro Stock. That's been a long time since I did that.
Yeah, that's a while.
Yeah, but it's been great. I remember Stacy, and we used to have Ron Art was one of our main announcers when we first started. We maybe had 8 or 10 pulls at the time. And he couldn't make it a couple times, and I remember Stacy in Freeport, I think, is when we talked the first time, right? And then,
yeah,
I believe, right?
Yeah.
And then it's all history after that, right?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, that's how far I go back. Lori, I think Larry Wolf was the president then, and you were the president in waiting. And yep. Lori was running the show, and she for Larry, and she called me up and asked, and I knew Larry and Lori a little bit. I don't know how or why, but she called me up and asked me to announce the poll, and I said, yeah, sure. And that might have been Freeport. I can't remember which one it was. But Freeport's where I talked to you down there. And yep. That was when you asked me how far I traveled. And I said, well, I can get around a little bit, and I think I went up to Sauk that Friday night or Saturday night or something. And then it just grew from there, because I think at that point you guys started at some point you guys started writing in the contracts, that you'll supply the announcer rather than the fair supplying the local auctioneer or whatever, And right. It kind of took off from there. I never grew up planning on being a tractor pull announcer. I wanted to be a tractor puller, which I have achieved also. So yeah. it keeps me pretty busy.
Right.
That's one thing I want to know is what do you guys remember your first pull? Because there's no professional tractor pulling announcer school. I think it all kind of started with where, hey, I'm better than that guy and he's not very fun, or you're just at a poll and the announcer doesn't show up, or they didn't book one. You're like, well, I've always wanted to do it. You grab a microphone. The next thing you know, we're here 25 years later for Stacy or John or Greg. You know what I mean? So
yeah, John, go ahead with your story, John. What's kind of your first encounter with Greg Elsing that you remember as well? Then,
or no, I want John. The very first poll you ever announced doesn't have to be Badger State.
Oh, I was a kid, and when I was a kid, I pulled with South Central Garden tractor pullers, and there's a gentleman by the name of Stan Miller that was one of the pullers there, and he was a great guy. And as a kid pulling, he made me feel like $1 million when he was announcing and what he talked about, and he'd get you all pepped up, and he had a great voice for announcing. Super great guy. He's friends with Wildman's, helped out with Wildman's at the farm for many years. And I just loved what he did and how he got folks involved in it. And as I got older, then he got me to do it. And I was a kid.
What was his name, John? John, what was his name?
Stan Miller.
Stan Miller?
Yep. So he got me doing it some with the garden tractor pulls. And then as I started rolling with Junior and Stacy when I was younger, you know, I always enjoyed Perry and Stacy announcing, and it's fun listening to them guys. And then as soon as I started pulling Tri-County, then I don't know what it was Stacy or Perry, one of you two birds, here, you can do this. We got to go pull. You'll be fine. And whoop, down the road they went. So then I was announcing a bunch of them, and then what got me into Badger State was Stacy. Stacy had family stuff going on with his daughter, and ended up going to Mayo Clinic that summer and was going to miss a bunch. So I think he talked to Greg or something, and I come and announced one pull with Stacy somewhere, and then I think I did 4 or 5 that summer or something, and it's been history since.
Yep. I remember all that.
I don't remember how many years ago that was either. How old was Mackenzie then, or how many years ago was that?
Yeah, that was probably 20 years ago, John. Yeah, she's 27 now. She was 7 years old. Yeah, that'd been 20 years ago. Holy smokes.
So as we're heading into banquet week, my first banquet, I remember the Winter Green. Okay. And that started when I started helping with Macville. Oh, Greg, what year did we take over Macville?
That's got to be close to 20 years now, too.
That's when PPL kind of took over. That was when PPL first took over ATPAs, when Macville came in.
So
that's when I got to go to the Winter Green. Where were the banquets? You know, because tonight's kind of an announcer show / banquet show. Where were some banquets before that you guys can talk about? Stacy, like, did you MC those, Stacy, as the announcer, or how did it all go?
No, not yet. Not yet at that point. They didn't think I was worthy of prime time yet, I guess. I don't know. But
I used to do it all.
the year before Winter Green, we had it at Ho-Chunk one year. And, and that was the first banquet that I went to for the Badger State. And it was at Ho-Chunk, and it was a buffet, and they didn't have enough food to feed everybody. I remember that.
Usually the venue runs out of Busch Light the first year, and the Ho-Chunk ran out of food.
They run out of Busch Light or Captain Morgan's, both.
That was it. That was the deal breaker.
Badger State's drank just about every place out of Captain Morgan our first year there, you know.
But we warned them every time you needed at least 12 cases extra above and beyond what you usually have. And they still run out.
Yeah.
But the banquet before that, before Ho-Chunk, it was at the Radisson down by the Coliseum. I think it was a couple years. It was in Janesville for a couple years. It's been a long road, you know. So it's been a long time. And I remember the first banquet I went to that's when I got nominated. My very first Badger State meeting, I got nominated on the board of directors with Larry Wolf, and there was all 4 of us were brand new on there, except for, I don't remember. Wasn't Tom Funk, I think, stayed on for a year with us. And he was the only board member that had any experience. We went to the first fair convention, didn't know what we were doing. No, but we kind of got it figured out now.
I'd say.
Yeah. The first banquet I remember is they're always at the Wilderness where they're at now. That's the only banquets I've been at. I've heard about the older ones, but only been at the new ones, and of course got to help with the MC last year for the first time, which was just an awesome experience for sure. But I do have a little story on my first pull announcing experience, which involves most people on the screen here, and especially the one that said he was going to have his microphone on mute the whole time. But my first one.
Oh, look, Chris went away. That's magic. So that's your first warning, Clark. Okay. In case you don't watch Down and Dirty the Badger State Tractor Pullers, I have the button. So you're in the penalty box, Clark. And I did say I muted myself, but I was lying. Okay.
So here, out of the penalty box.
Chris, you promise to behave, Chris?
Yep, I will. Just one quick story though, and then we're good. So I think my first real encounter with Greg Elsing, and I don't know if he remember this or not, but it was in Sauk City at the Badger State Pole there, and this was probably like 2014, maybe must have been 2014, and I had just started announcing probably 2 years before that, and my very first one I got to announce because the announcer didn't show up at a PI poll, and I jumped in and announced. Well, this one I started going to the Badger State polls almost every poll this season that summer, and I was by the announcing trailer, the gooseneck trailer, just kind of sitting there. I think I was going to take pictures and watch, and I heard, I think probably Amy or Kelly was on the trailer talking about he forgot to come. Where's our announcer? I thought who told him to be here, and did he cancel or what's he doing? And they were talking about Jason Schultz, of course. He was supposed to be there. Well, I'm pretty sure he forgot. That was the story. The wires got crossed. Something he wasn't there. He forgot to come. Well, it was last minute, and they were asking Greg. Then Greg was going to announce. Like Greg was the next guy up to announce, and they were talking to him, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I guess I'll do it, this or that and the other thing." And I got worked up enough courage to walk up on the trailer, and I asked, I think it was Greg. I'm pretty sure I asked you, Greg. He's like, "Do you want me to announce?" And you're like, "Yeah, I don't want to," and just gave me the mic and walked away.
Where was this at, Chris?
It was in Sauk City, I think, in like 2014.
And I was supposed to announce it?
Yep, I remember this quite well because I was talking to my dad, and he was down at Platteville, and he was announcing. I think must have been Dairy Day, so it must have been a pretty late pull for Sauk City. And my dad said, "Oh yeah, Jason Schultz was down there exhibition pulling his hot farm," and I says, "He was supposed to be in Sauk City announcing the Badger State pull." I remember how that all went down.
Yep.
Well, Chris, you're welcome. You're welcome.
Yep,
That's how we all get our job. So.
Yeah, so I got to thank Jason for not showing up, and thank Greg for not really wanting to do it, just giving me the mic and say, "Here you go."
Yeah, I can see Greg saying, "Yeah, sure, I'll be right back," and then you see him 3 hours later.
Yeah.
Oh,
It isn't like when you're doing your hometown pull, it isn't like you have enough to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That was not really on your list of things to kind of do that night. So it worked out great for me. I had a blast, and then I think I got onto the calendar, the staff calendar, the next year in 2015. Then and started in Darlington and a few of them.
Yep. It's been a good addition.
Yes. Look at all the gals there that help us out all the time behind the scenes. That's what makes us announcers look good, are the girls that take care of all the track stuff and all the signing. But not only that, they give us all the information for all of our sponsors, all the distances. It's on the computer. You can read it. It's not hand scratched. Then when the pulling class is over, they sort it. It's all sorted for us. Those are the gals right there that make us all look good right there.
I always love the Greene County Fall Nationals to see, because typically you're all there announcing and everybody's kind of there. And I always see a lot of fun pictures from you guys. You spent the entire summer in an announcer stand together. It's fun to see these pictures. So
yeah, and it's either hot like it was there that year, or it's cold. One of the two.
Last year was pretty nice. This fall was nice, wasn't it? If I remember right.
Didn't it rain out?
It did get rained out.
Did.
The last 4 ones.
Yep. We pulled, I think. I don't know.
Yeah, we got rained out a couple 3 years ago, I guess, before COVID.
Well, I think we got rained out this year too, because the limited pro class was the last class, and they broke in Viroqua the night before. Didn't get to pull, the sled broke, and then they got rained out Saturday, so nobody had a chance to chase Coots down.
Yeah.
Sticking to that one. You're just wanting to wind Coots up, that's all.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It's fun. What I find interesting is both John and myself, we cut our announcing teeth on the microphone for Tri-County Puller mini rod pulling. I mean, that's where I got my start, and that was back in 82. So that's how long I've been at it with the mini rod stuff. And that was kind of the same deal. That was when me and my brother Perry built our first mini rod and showed up at a Tri-County pull. You know, we seen how it works. You know, everybody helps. You know, back then we had a measuring crew, and the pullers, you know, they did the measuring with the string and the tape and everything, and everybody had to do something. That's how Tri-County worked, and still does to this day. And one of the pullers' wives, she was announcing, and we didn't have much of an announcer set up, a couple of Radio Shack speakers and an amp, but it worked. And I thought, well, I could help her do that. So I said, you mind if I do that? And she was, here, go ahead. And so I started doing that. I don't know if it came natural to me or what, but I kind of like to talk anyway. So I started announcing the Tri-County polls. And for me, getting into the big time pulling was at the Stevenson County Fair. I think I did announce Badger State's pull when they had it over at Dakota. That would have been my first Badger State pull at Dakota. And then I think the following year I did the Stevenson County Fair, and that was when me and Greg had our conversation. And then it just kind of took off from there and got to be more than one guy could do, that's for sure. And luckily John came on, Christopher too. I think we make a pretty good team.
Yeah, I'll chime in on those last couple of pictures that Jason threw up there. That was from the Vernon County Fair, which is a poll that's pretty near and dear to me, as well as that's my hometown county fair where I spent a lot of time growing up, and the Badger State Tractor Pullers have been there the last 4 years or so, maybe 5, and got to announce there often, and it's always a great memory. And that was my daughter Charlotte up on the screen there. That was one of her first times that she got to be at the pull while I was announcing. My parents were able to bring her over there while I was announcing, and got to get some pictures with her. So that'll be a special memory from this last year for sure. As we got to go and take her on some of the same rides and see some of the same things that I got to see when I was a kid at the Vernon County Fair there too. So always glad when I get to see that one on the schedule and get to be there.
David Tinberg says Stacy likes to talk. No. Who's David Tinberg?
Yeah.
Somebody else put on there. It was interesting to see that 2 of these guys pull blown mini rods with Tri-County pullers too. So
yeah, that's another odd thing. And I'll tell you another thing that's odd is I've been told, and John, you've been told this too, and I'm sure everybody else has, that me and John sound very much alike. And how that is, I have no idea. But
because you're brothers.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny because I'm working my seasonal job over in Clinton, Wisconsin right now, and one of the guys over there, he works on the track at Show Pier, and we were talking when I went back to work over there. I was talking to him, and he says, yeah, he goes, I wanted to come up and say hi to you while you're announcing over at the Polish Show Pier there. He says, I started heading that way, and I looked up, and it wasn't you. I just laughed. I said, oh, no, I was out in Missouri. That was my buddy John.
Yeah.
Ryan Morey says, what has been the most embarrassing moment behind the mic? You go
This
first.
is my favorite. This is my favorite part. Like when you guys slipped and you said something stupid. I do it every time I announce. So it's they all kind of blend together. But you,
I know what mine is.
Go ahead.
At the Greene County Fall Nationals several years ago, me and John, and that was back when they were giving out a lot of prizes, and we had to come up. They came up with questions for us to ask the crowd about prize. You know, who had this or who could name what to win a prize. And you know where I'm going with this one, don't you, John? And one of the question to win this particular prize was the first woman that's pregnant. It comes to the announcer stand. You come up here and we got a prize for you. And I don't ever think before I talk. That's probably a bad problem too that I have. But I says to John, I says, well, what if she's not really pregnant? How would you know for sure? You know? And then I had to, instead of shutting up there, I kept going. And I said, well, I know how we used to check for cows on the farm, see if they're pregnant. And John just put his head down.
I'm dying.
Too bad on for that.
And luckily the woman that came up to claim the prize, which was a nice set of golf clubs, I might add, she was visibly pregnant, so it worked out fine that way.
You didn't have to bump her, huh?
Oh God, yeah. Sometimes you should think before you talk, but I don't know. I don't think I'd say much if I thought about it all the time.
Yeah, that was my most embarrassing. What's yours? Oh gosh. Yeah.
That's
Dang.
funny.
Yeah, that was a dandy. I forgot about that one. That was good.
They're both crying. They're both crying. Look, they are brothers. They're crying at the same time.
Yeah. What about you, Christopher?
Well, I'm trying to remember. I don't know if I have one quite as good as that, really. I know sometimes I've said the wrong names, just kind of that common stuff, but you try to kind of move past it, and hopefully that maybe nobody heard you. But maybe my most embarrassing one behind the mic was probably last year at the banquet when I came out on the banquet and didn't get the right dress code memo. Kind of got on the wrong email and had to come out there in a disco suit and a candy cane suit in front of 480 friends and family. That was a little bit embarrassing, but a lot of fun.
I think Stacy set you up on that one.
Yeah, right. I get credit for everything.
Which name, like which puller's name? Because you know what it's like when you go to a different venue and you start reading through the names. Which puller's name have you guys butchered the worst? And then the puller actually came up and said something to you, or somebody in the fans or in the stands or something like that. Tell me some names you guys have just butchered over the years.
Yeah,
Well,
I can't.
There's been a lot of them, especially when they're a new puller. And the thing with me is, if you don't correct me right away, that guy might as well just change his name, because I'm pretty hard to retrain.
Every time you have to announce the Funks trucks.
Yeah, that's what mine was going to be. I was going to be that one for me. I got to slow down when I announce them boys.
Yeah.
I remember telling Kelly one night when they brought that out, and I looked at Kelly and I said, "You see that truck?" She says, "Yep." I said, "Well, I might as well apologize now." And she says, "For what?" I said, "One of these times I'm going to screw up that name and it ain't going to come out correctly at all."
Yeah.
Funkin' grooving, and then funkin' moving, and yeah, I've kept it good so far. But boy, oh boy, I don't know all these times.
That comment that just came up on the screen, Jamie, is that one there. I lost a bet. I think this is the one that I lost a $20 bet to. I think he was about 2 years old or something, at the North Iowa Nationals in Iowa. But that was a real great memory. I always remember those times talking to people in the crowd or kids in the crowd, and this one was real memorable because I think her sister was just being born or was going to be born that day, that weekend or something. Maybe the first time I seen him, and I've got to see him a couple times now in the crowd and there's some pulls like that where I go and see the same people in the stands in multiple years. And that's what my question would be for you two. Is there what's your kind of favorite, your most memorable interview when you were announcing with puller or a fan?
Go ahead, John.
One of the most memorable ones is actually one that stopped me in my tracks, and you were there, Christopher. It was in Hillsboro, and Limited Pro Stocks were there that night, and the great folks in Missouri down there were there, and boy, that was just a crazy night.
Doug Ruth,
yeah, and Doug and his wife were there, and his wife is a cancer survivor, colon cancer survivor, so they don't take cancer lightly at all. And there's this kid there. He's probably, I don't know, late teens or something like that. And he was there the year before and loved their tractor, got a picture taken with it. The next year he was there, and he sat in it, and Doug put his helmet on him and, let him take pictures. He sat in the seat, and he come up to get his award that night, And there he is. There's Doug and his wife Dee. Great people. The old Brinkmeyer tractor. So he come up and he said, "Hey, before you turn that on, I need to ask you a question." I'm like, "Yeah, sure. Go ahead." He's like, "Can I give my trophy to somebody?" I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely. It's yours. You do what you want." He says, "Well, there's this boy that's here." He says, "He loves my tractor and I want to give it to him." So I said, "Well, you got his name?" "Yep, I got his name." And he told me his name. So I called him up here, and this kid come to the end of the steps. And he had Western boots on, and he come up them steps in about 3 bounds with a big old smile on his face. And you could tell he was sick. He was pretty sick, but boy, he had a smile on his face. And I introduced Doug and congratulated him on a second place. And I looked over at his wife Dee, and she was bawling, and he had all he could do to get the words out to hand that trophy to him. And after that, all of us were bawling up there, and I couldn't even talk. I mean, I couldn't get nothing out. I had to look at Christopher and, "You got to go with this because I'm out," and I couldn't talk either. But it was so heartwarming to see what they did for that kid, and the smile on that kid's face. It was just amazing that night. That was awesome.
Doug,
So that's
we're coming
one
to
of
the
my.
Doug and Dee were coming to the banquet, and they called me today and said they were sorry they couldn't make it. They've got a bunch of cattle coming in. They were coming.
Dang. Gonna miss you guys.
Yep.
Yeah, great folks.
How about you,
How about
Stacy?
Oh, geez, I don't know. I've had a lot of them over the years. Yeah, I got a couple that stick out in my mind. One of them was fairly recent. We were at Freeport, and John Coots was getting ready to pull, and his little boy Wesley's moseying around up on the stage up there. And you guys know Wesley, he's kind of a little pistol, and John had trouble with his tractor the previous pull, and Wesley was there. So I stick the mic in front of his face. I asked him. I says, "Hey, what happened to your dad's tractor at the last pull?" And he goes, "He stuck the pump." just as matter of factly as can be. And everybody just started laughing. And so I prodded him on a couple more times. He's quite a little talker. This was a couple years ago. He's gotten a little quiet on us the last couple of years, but he was pretty funny that time. But yeah, that one stands out to me. That's for sure. It's another one that I remember is Bill Leishner. Again, it's at Freeport, and Bill Leishner won the class, and I was interviewing him, and he takes the mic and he turns the interview around on me, and he tells all the fans, he goes, "We go to a lot of polls, but this is one of the best announcers around." And I says, he hands me the mic back, and I says, "Thanks a lot, Bill. I owe you money now too." But I was pretty honored and humbled, for one of the, a national puller of legendary status like Bill Leishner would recognize me to that degree. Made me feel pretty good, really did. We're privileged that we get to do this, John and Christopher. It's something that we love to do, and it's an honor for me, that's for sure.
Yep.
Yeah, that's true. I think that's something that maybe not everybody realizes out there that's listening or that's not announcing is as much fun as it is for us to do the announcing. And, if we enjoy it for one reason or another, it's really those interactions. That's what the big Badger State family is all about. It, but it's the interactions. So once in a while we get them with a fan or with a puller or an interview, and it's that's really memorable for us. And a puller may not remember one thing about it or may forget about it later that night, but sometimes us, we remember that forever. So that's for some little aspect that not everybody maybe realizes, is that the kind of the social aspect for us when we get to interact with somebody, it can be quite memorable for us.
Yeah. And something that, for me anyways, when I started announcing, I was always a tractor pull fan first. from being a little kid growing up on a farm with my dad, you know, and he pulled every tractor that we farmed with. And my first memories of life are being at tractor pulls, you know, so I always was a tractor pull fan. And I always, you know, back then we didn't have the internet or anything like that. So you'd find an ad in a newspaper or something about a tractor pull coming up and you're like, oh, I'd like to go to that, you know, or the Puller magazine back then, they had the schedules in there. And I'd plan on going to watch a pull, and it's supposed to start at 7:00. Well, I'd get there, you know, I'd get there before 7, mind you. And I'd be there, and they're still messing around with the track, and, you know, they're not near ready to go, and they start a half an hour late. And that was accepted behavior back then. And I thought, well, that's just not right. I made the effort to be here on time. Why can't they make the effort to start their pull on time? And I understand rain and stuff like that. You know, there's circumstances at times, but sometimes it's just being lackadaisical. But that's what I love about the Badger State tractor pullers. They run a tight ship. They start these pulls on time and they click them right through. And they run a good show, and it shows in the quality of their shows and so many aspects. All you know, we're lucky we just get to stand up there and call it, but there's so many people behind the scenes that make it happen. All the officials and Ryan coming on board with all of his technical savvy and that video board and everything that happens. And you know, everybody does a job, and it's so smooth. I mean, that's why Badger State attracts some of the best pullers around, because they like pulling with a good organization, and they know what they're going to get, and the fans and the promoters know what they're going to get when they book a Badger State tractor pull. They're going to get a good quality show, and that's what I like about it. That's the bottom line for me on that.
Hit the nail on the head, and I'm honored to be here too, and all the people in behind the scenes. I mean, how many state level organizations, you know, have 2 polls in 2 different states with 2 different crews and 2 different announcers? I don't know. Maybe there is a couple others. I don't know, but that's a feat in itself.
Yeah, there's a throwback video on there from years ago. Boy, that's seems like a lifetime ago there. And I was gonna ask you guys too at some point if you remember I think the very first show that we got together. I remember doing that at in Richland Center at the radio station. One of the very first shows that Jason had put on, and you guys, I think, had called in. I think that was our first announcer night. I was trying to remember what year that was. That must have been at least probably 5 years ago or more.
Oh yeah,
we all got together on our first show.
It would have been 13 or 14, Chris.
Yeah. So 10 years
this
ago.
This is in my house. This video. This is 6 years ago.
Yeah, when we got.
Yeah, don't worry, Chris. The older you get, the years go by a lot faster too.
Some years drag on.
Yeah, that's it's been quite a fun ride on these shows. Yeah, about 10 years ago is when we've had the first one, produced it at the WRCO, I think Richland Center radio station, and really have moved on for there. And speaking of talking, I was going to ask how many other banquets have you two got to MC at, or what's your other banquet MCing experience besides the Badger State Tractor Pullers banquet?
Just Tri-County.
Go ahead, John.
Just Tri-County Pullers is the only one that we've MC'd. I guess I've MC'd, but with Stacy.
Yeah, that to me, and that's the only other thing, the only other banquet I've MC'd, and I don't even do that anymore. I sit back and let the guys that run that, they do that. And but yeah, that's it. Other than the Badger State banquet, that's it. And I can go to 4 pulling banquets a year in the off season, and none of them compare to the Badger State banquet. It's Badger State banquet's on a level of its own. Yeah, you're talking about auctioneering, Chris, and that's something else that sticks out in my mind is at the banquet last year when we were having the auction for Sussex Machines suite at Fiserv Stadium for the Bucks game, and I was auctioning that off, and the bids took off, and we were going at $500 a crack on the bids. There wasn't no $50, $75, $100. It was $500 a pop from, I think that went from, when we got to 5,000, then it went to 55, then 6 and 65. And I think it ended up at $14,500 for that. That was just insane. But, you know, that kind of energy really energizes me. I was pooped when it was done. That's for sure. But to see that kind of outpouring of support in a room of your friends there, that was just amazing to me.
Yeah, and that's where I'll.
The parking pass.
Yeah.
Is important.
Yep. Yeah, and that's where I'll touch on that too. Is it's kind of the banquet show that the Badger State Banquet is quite a turned into a special deal for a lot of people. It's kind of a family fun weekend. I know I get to head up there on Friday, and me and my daughter heading up to the water park on Friday, and then I'm going out with my parents and her to dinner Friday night. And I know a lot of pullers and family come up and go out to a nice dinner on Friday, and then have the meetings on Saturday and hit the water park all weekend long. And for some of you that kind of aren't familiar with the banquet, it's really a weekend long event for a lot of folks. A lot of people are done farming and get to go kind of get the weekend away from home and reconnect with all the pullers and friends there. But it's really special time. And if you ever get a chance to be at one of the banquets, it's definitely a recommended thing once in your lifetime to join a pulling banquet, whether any association, whichever one it might be.
And anybody can go to the Badger State Banquet too. You can get tickets and come. And not only that, we live stream it on Badger State Tractor Pullers Facebook page. So for those of you that are watching Down and Dirty tonight that would like to see it, you can see it live as Ryan Zellick will have it live as we'll be on Saturday night and Saturday evening, I guess you should say. And you guys can more than welcome jump on and watch and enjoy it.
Hey, I got a question for my fellow announcers here for you guys. What one thing or where can we improve upon?
Uh-oh, he froze.
Rose up. Must have been a tough question.
Yeah, internet.
Hey, as long as you're trying to get Stacy back here, I would like to go over some of the auction items we're going to have at the banquet this year for a minute. Is that right?
Sure.
Hey, we're going to have again. Dean Monty is giving 4 tickets. His 4 seats, which are like I want to believe 5 or 6 rows right behind the visitors bench, and 2 floor seats. Dean and Jackie, Monty and Drew, and Sky, his wife. That family's donating them tickets again.
The real Dean.
What's that?
The real Dean Monty.
The real Dean Monty. And well, I don't know if Jackie thinks he's the real Dean Monty, but and Chris Feller's got 4 floor seats for the Detroit Pistons game, if I remember right. And then 4 seats, 4 rows from the floor. And then there's 4 seats close to that. He's going to give 8 seats away this year to the game, so that's the auctions. And our new auction item is it's 18 seats. It's a suite that holds 18 at a Badger hockey game. It's the Friday night before our spring meeting. And it's all food and booze included. And a total glyphosate. Tim Abbey, and I should have had my notes down if I was going to talk from, used to be at Nutrien. There's another company now, and they're donating a total glyphosate plus those 18 tickets to be auctioned off. And we'll read the letter that she sent. These 18 tickets, it means a lot to me, and it'll mean a lot to every puller in the club.
Wow!
When we get this, it's special. So when stuff like that is happening, and even with Dean Monty is the one that started this auction stuff with his tickets too. So we have to thank. So just so everybody knows, and it's supposed to be out on our Facebook page to watch, and hopefully we're going to line up some online bidding if we can figure it out.
That'd be sweet.
Yeah. Is Stacy back?
He's
Yeah,
back,
I don't know why mine kicked me off for a minute, but it did. But I was able. The best part is I was able to figure out how to get back on.
Yeah.
Pretty good for an old fart.
Hey,
Stacy,
John,
Start back up.
2-minute warning, John. 2-minute warning.
yeah. So you go ahead with your question, Stacy, and then I got a real quick one. Then
Yeah. Well, mine will be more than 2 minutes. But so if we're going to start wrapping things up, I'll go ahead and let you guys run. I think I babbled.
well,
Or I kicked him off. I love that button. I love that button.
well, maybe as we start our way to wrap it up, I know one thing that all three of us announcers ask a lot in the interviews is who would you like to thank? So that's what I think. Maybe we can kind of wrap it up with who would us three announcers like to thank for allowing us to announce and make it to all the shows that we do. And I'll go last. I'll let you guys start.
Go ahead, Stacy. You first.
Well, I already said, the Badger State organization, they brought me on board and treated me like family from day one, and have treated me very, very well over the years, and especially this last year. It's been quite an amazing family and a group of pullers and an organization to be a part of, and I'm very proud to be a part of them. And that's the bottom line there for me.
That's the same for me, and I'd like to thank my wife. She puts up a lot with the crazy tractor pulling over the years, and not only having our own pulling tractor, and Brian and I running the mini rod, and Ross running the garden tractors and that, and then running around all the Badger State pulls, and the Badger State family for taking us into and being so gracious to us. And we'd like to thank our sponsors for the Down and Dirty show too. This has been so fun. This has been just a great time doing this show, and all the shop tours with Greg, and more shop tours to come. Farm Street Toys, one of our sponsors that help us out. The Casters, Casper Egg, Trip Downing, and Slama Enterprises, all them that help us out with this. And it's just been fun, and hope to do more and keep amping this up. So, and thank all you guys. I mean, this is a lot of fun, all of us together.
Yeah, that's for sure. It takes a lot of people to kind of put one of the events on, and I got to thank you guys for trusting me to do it and being a part of the organization, and got to thank all the pullers that and staff that had come up and said hi or talked to me or welcomed me to the events over the last going to be 10 years. It's been really nice to kind of feel welcomed and part of the crew in my real early on years. And got to thank my employer, LG Seeds. They graciously allow me some little extra bonus time off to make it to all the tractor pulling stuff. So got to give a little shout out to LG for that. And for you guys, got to thank you two for allowing me a little bit of sliver room on the schedule so I can come out and have a little fun.
Well, we appreciate you. Thanks, Jason, for all you do too, and helping get this show rolling too, Down and Dirty. This is just so much fun, and you've been the ringleader, and thank you very much.
I'll see you guys this weekend. Love the Badger State Tractor Pullers. Very, very appreciative to the entire organization, and Greg for being my friend. He doesn't admit it publicly, but
Right.
he likes
I owe you money, huh?
it.
I'm proud for you guys. You know that, right? I hope you guys don't proud. And I brag on you when I go to every one of these president's board meetings I do for the Lucas Oil deal. I brag on, hey, announcers are half the show. You got to get good ones. And we have the best. So thank you, guys.
This was fun. John, we should do this once a quarter with all the announcers, but I got to wrap this up and start my other podcast. So thanks for watching. See you this weekend at the banquet. And if you can't be there, I'm sure Zolik is going to live stream it. And for those of you, bring your checkbooks and let's raise some money for Children's Hospital. Have a good night, everybody.
Yep. Thank you.